No, it's not. I have Mary Allison is a picture of you, so I know what you look like. And I posted it so everybody else knows what you look like. Don't worry.
Okay.
But thank you so much for doing this for us. I can't wait to hear from you. Mary Alice has shared nothing but amazing things about you and just your life. So I would love for you to start just kind of telling us a little bit about you, and then I'll just let you take the wheel.
Awesome. Well, my name is Whitney, and I met Mary Alice several years ago. Our story is kind of a funny one. We are both strong women, so when we met one another, I think we butted heads just a little bit. We both started at the beginning of our teaching career together in Swainsboro. And yeah, I was a teacher for 10 years, and this is my first school year not teaching. So I'm in transition, and it's been pretty exciting so far.
How long did you teach for?
10 years.
10 years.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a huge transition to just stop doing that, I'm sure.
Yes, it is. It's been a giant transition. And when she talked to me about what I guess where I could be helpful with y'all and the group, it was just so interesting because I guess those struggles are the same across all platforms. So she mentioned issues with just inviting people in, sharing what you serve, and then receiving money with love, and how all of those
Mm,
things kind of get, we get hung up on that.
yes, that is so good. All right, girl, just take it. I'm excited.
Yay! I think before I get started, having the money conversation is one of the most intimate conversations I think you can have with people. It's one of those things that we do try to, I don't know, we sometimes try to hide where we are financially, or it's just a little bit taboo to talk about. So writing this talk it was painful to sit in the chair and write these things down and really kind of work through some of these emotions. But what I will say about money is that how you give and receive money has everything to do with how you feel about yourself. Creating a successful brand and business, it starts with you. And so this isn't like a how to get rich quick kind of presentation. It deals a lot with doing the hard work of working on you and kind of how you feel about you. Um, so just an overview, it starts with you. We're going to talk about self-worth and serving others, self-worth and how that impacts receiving money, and how all of this leads to empowerment of the self. And I'm a little nervous, so if I get going too fast, y'all just tell me, hey girl, slow down, and I'm happy to take a deep breath.
Don't be nervous. We're all just like you.
What I've learned so far about sales is that it's a loop. So it starts with you, how you feel about you, a product you create, a service that you share with others. The next step is you serve others, so you try to sell your product, and then you receive. You receive money for the service that you have given, and then you go back to yourself. How do I feel about the money that I have received? And it's over and over and over and over again. So when we look at ourselves, we've got to start with our story. And my story is not, that important. I think we all have our own bags to unpack. But what is important about my story is that what I experienced in my childhood led to issues with my own self-worth. And I carried those issues right into adulthood. I carried those issues right into my career. And those issues impacted every single decision I made. I never felt worthy. I never felt good enough. I felt if I could just get to this milestone, if I could just get this type of relationship, if I could just make this kind of money, I could prove to myself, prove to my family I was worthy and worth it. And I just made a series of really poor decisions because I didn't feel good enough or worthy. Dealing with those issues has opened a lot of doors for me. And so a quote that has stuck out to me from Brene Brown talks about story. When we deny the story, it defines us. When we can own the story, we can write a brave new ending. I think for a long time, I was in denial over my story. I was shamed for my story by my family. They said, no, this didn't happen this way. But all of these feelings of negative self-worth and all of this kind of wondering if I was worth it and worthy, all of that came from somewhere. So I had to look at that story. I had to see how it was defining me. And then it's up to me to let that story go and write something new. So what I just want to ask you guys is, what is your story? How have the experiences of your life shaped the person that you are? I had this mentor, and I think Mary Alice has a similar mentor. We share this one. And we were in a creative writing class, and writing is all about finding your truth. And in this book that we were required to read, Natalie Goldberg said, you had to be willing to sit at the bottom of the pit, commit yourself to stay there, and let all the wild animals approach, even call them up, face them, write them down, and not run away. And I think when we're looking at our story, we have to be brave. We have to sit in that dark place sometimes, and we have to say, I'm going to face this head on. I'm not going to run away. If you journal, a lot of this stuff probably comes up in your writing. Just the painful things of life that you have experienced, and we all have them. Oh goodness, I'm so sorry. So my question is, have you unpacked your baggage? Have you looked into the person that you are? Have you looked at how the experience has shaped who you are? And what story are you empowering? And how does it serve you? So something that's bizarre is that the stories that we tell other people, they have this way of serving us. For example, I've always struggled with self-worth. When I married my wife a few years ago, my parents decided that was something they could not support, and they didn't come. And I'm an only child, and it was one of the most painful experiences that I've probably ever gone through. And when I tell that story, what I get is the reaction from people to go, oh my gosh, they didn't come? Are you okay? It serves me. It gives me the validation and the care. All of those things that I wish that my parents could have done for me, that story serves me. When I am a victim, I am looking for attention. So you have to really look at how you feel about the person that you are. You have to figure out what do you want and how you're going to get it. And if you're stuck in a victim narrative, you've got to rewrite your story. If I am a victim, I cannot reach my full power. If I am a victim, I cannot reach my full power. And so I had to let it go. I had to change that story. And really changing that story to me is stop telling it, right? It was painful, it hurt. Why do I want to live it over and over and over again and empower the people that hurt me? So a lot of people, which is weird, is when you say, what do you want? They can tell you 10 things that they don't want. And you say, okay, but what do you want? Well, I don't want to be broke, and I don't want to be poor, and I don't want to be this. Okay, but what do you want? And I think we really, really, really have to do the work of figuring out what it is that we want and then derive a way to get there. And the first step is letting go of that narrative, rewriting that story. So change is painful. I was a teacher for 10 years. And if you want to talk about never feeling good enough, go be a teacher. However, what I will say is that change is painful because it requires you to grow, and stagnation is comfortable. When I was teaching, I could blame my kids for not caring. I could blame the parents for being either too involved or not involved enough. I could blame the administration for whatever crazy expectation they had. And I could say, I don't have time to do this or that because, and I could blame everyone around me. But it was kind of the devil I knew, right? It was something comfortable. And so stepping out into my own and not going back to school has been a very painful and kind of awe-inspiring journey so far. Starting a business is scary because it makes you feel vulnerable. Being vulnerable is experiencing uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Starting a business is a magnifying glass. It hones in on all of your insecurities. When I left teaching and I opened my commercial space, I felt cracked wide open. Every self-worth issue that I had, all of the money pain that I had, it was wide open for everybody to see at that point. And that's where I had to start. And that's where you have to start, is with all of those all of those issues, all of those insecurities. Starting a business is about so much more than whatever you are selling or skill set you have. Putting yourself and your product into the world and asking for payment is asking for people to decide if your service is valuable enough to be paid for. And y'all, that is scary because people can look at you and say, this is not worth it to me. I don't want to give you money for this thing that you are so excited about. I do not feel that this product is worth what you're asking me to pay. And that rejection can be very painful. And I think we've all experienced it, being told no. So we go back to that loop. We try to serve, right? And people say no. You go right back to yourself and you got to start doing the work. So when we're looking at ourselves, and what I had to realize is that there is such thing as a law of attraction. What we focus on, we're going to attract into our life. So if I'm attracting no, or I'm attracting people saying, I don't find this valuable, if I'm attracting rejection, I've got to go back to myself and look at the energy that I'm putting out into the world. And this is what I have found to be true. And I'll go ahead and just put these all up. When I doubt my worth, I attract people that doubt my worth. When I'm confident, I find people that feel that they are confident in me. When I do not value myself, I attract clients that do not value me. And the biggest one that I've learned since I've been full-time photography is when I worry about money, I attract clients that are money sensitive and that are also worried about money. So when I say you've got to look back at yourself, the people that you are attracting to your brand is a mirror of the energy that you are putting out. And if you think about that, it's scary and it's so true. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about no and rejection in just a couple minutes, but when you look and you say, okay, what is this client trying to show me? What is the universe trying to show me? If you are open to seeing it, it'll blow your mind. So when we think about our thoughts and we think about the energy that we're putting out into the universe, when things go wrong in your business, you've got to look into yourself, right? So this person said no, I've got to look at myself. This person didn't want to buy my product. I need to look inside myself. What can I learn? So the universe has this way of showing you things again and again and again and again until you learn the lesson that you need to learn. And if you are spiritual, you can say that God shows you these things again and again and again. There's a higher power that just shows you these lessons until you learn what you're supposed to learn. And if you're not learning, you're going to get stuck. And that is also a very scary place to be. So if you want to change your situation, you must first change your thoughts, because if you keep thinking what you've been thinking, you'll keep on getting what you've been getting. If you haven't checked out John Gordon, The Energy Bus, I'll put a link in the group. It's an excellent book, all about kind of how your is the law of attraction. What you're putting out, you're going to get back tenfold. So when we talk about the loop of sales, you got to serve other people, really, because that's what we're all in it to do. And how you serve other people is a direct reflection of how you feel about yourself and the service and product you are giving other people. So if I'm confident in my brand, I ask a client, how can I serve you? I feel that I am worthy of serving this client and I'm excited to share my gift. And I'm in a space or energy of giving. I really want to serve you, the client, and give you the best experience I can. If I am not confident, when I'm speaking to a client, I'm kind of asking, am I good enough to get paid? I feel if they purchase my service, I am good enough. And I'm in a space of receiving. I'm not really sure if I'm good enough to charge you, but like I really need to pay the bills. And so let's just hope it's good enough. So we've got to go back kind of to that sales loop. It starts with you and yourself. If I can serve you Or if I can show you what I can do for you, then you're going to say, yes, please serve me. If I'm making it about me, you're going to say, I don't know what you're going to do for me. So you get told no, and then you're back to yourself there. Something to remember is it's really not about you. When you're serving from a place of need, the energy you are emitting is desperate, and desperate energy is repulsive. This leads to a quick no. It sends you right back to yourself in the loop of sales, and you've got more work to do. My best advice is you've got to get out of your own way and stop making it about you. I think something that is challenging, though, is how do you do that? How do you stop making it about you? Because for you, it is about your bills, and it is about the bottom line, and it is about making money. That's why you set out to do whatever this thing is that you set out to do. So what my best advice is to turn your worry into service. We're all in business to earn a living, but when we start to focus only on the money, we're not focusing on our clients. You've got to take yourself out of your equation, and you've got to start emitting an energy that is attractive to people. The energy that you emit is created by you, but the service you provide, it's not about you. It's not about you. It's 100% about somebody else. Consumers are very selfish. They're not worried about you. They're not worried about your feelings. They're not worried about your bills or whatever else. They are only worried about what you can do for them. So again, you say, but how do I get out of this worry? I thought taking on this job or opening this business was going to help me get to a place of financial freedom. And all it's doing is stressing me out. People won't pay me. People say no. If you're worried about making money, shift your thinking to service. How can I serve you? Because when you're putting out the energy of service, you're not making it about you. You're making it about the other person. If you're seeking money, seek people to serve. So just think about that for just a second. Now, people can say no, and they do all the time. And early on, it can be pretty crippling because you're like, okay, but they said no, what's wrong with me or my service or my brand or my product or whatever. And yes, sometimes no can absolutely indicate that you did not connect. You did not resonate with them. Something about your message just didn't quite connect. And it's okay. People are going to tell you no, you're not for everyone. That's totally fine. I think with Beachbody coaches as well, there are so many different types of coaches and different flavors. You're not for everyone. It's cool. If you're serving them from a place of giving, they're going to tell you no, and you're going to move on. If you're serving from a place of receiving, you need to turn back to self-value. Sometimes no is just a call for more information. There's something that was unclear, and in discovery, you find that they have a misconception, and you can absolutely clear that up, and maybe a no becomes a yes. Sometimes no means not right now. It's important to leave that door open, make sure they can come back in the future when they're ready. And then sometimes no is an indicator of their own self-worth. If people don't feel worthy of the investment, that's not for you to fix. You've got to think about that as well. Anytime that somebody spends money, they have to decide if they are worth that investment, if it's worth them spending that money on themselves. No does stop the loop because it prevents you from going from serving your client to actually receiving payment. They're saying, no, I don't want you to serve me. And so when you return back to self, you've got to figure out, well, how do I feel? Do I feel rejected? This dropped me to my knees. This is so much pain. Or do you quickly recover and move on? I mean, rejection in any way does hurt, but how long does it take you out of the game? Does it matter why they said no? You can chime in if you've ever heard, I need to talk to my husband first. Or I just don't have the money. God, that's expensive. Y'all want $125 for a bag of shake? Or, I can't see spending this money right now. I just don't have the budget, or I don't have the time. I cannot commit to this workout every day. I'm just so busy. Doesn't matter. I don't think it does. I think what you need to understand is that their objection is not always about you. It can also just be about them. They've got to unpack their own baggage. And if you're getting stuck on their no and why they said no, then you are putting out that stinky energy that's worried about you. What did I do wrong? Am I worthy? Do they want to spend this money? What is it about me that was repelling them from my brand? And so then you're not going to attract the people that you want to attract because your energy is not attractive. So don't get hung up on the husband or the product being too expensive or whatever. I had to let that go. The husband thing, I had to let that one go. So when you do serve people, when you provide them with a service, and y'all's process is a little bit different. From what I understand, you try to get people on board, you show them what you can do for them, and then you ask for payment before you do anything. So they've got to pay you before they can get the cups and the shakes and the workout. I mean, payment has got to be made before you render a service and they get products. In my business, it's a little bit different. I say, can I serve you? They say, yes, please serve me. I serve them. They come back in. I ask for payment after they've seen their portraits. They can absolutely 100% say, I'm not happy with my service, and not pay me anything. And that is a very vulnerable, scary place to be, because if I am not getting paid, then how am I going to keep my business afloat? So when we look at receiving money also is impacted by how you feel about yourself and the product or service that you are giving and creating. And this was one that really kind of took me a little while to figure out. If you don't value your product or yourself, asking other people for money is going to create feelings of guilt and shame. And guilt and shame are painful, and we don't want to feel this way. So guilt is a feeling of anxiety or unhappiness that you've done something immoral or wrong. And shame is that painful feeling of humiliation caused by foolish behavior. If you feel guilt and shame over the price, people are going to guilt you and shame you over the price. This literally just happened to me earlier this week. So I had a client and we did a session. We finished 65 images for her. She loved all of them. Her daughter loved all of them. It was a senior portrait session. And she could not financially commit to purchasing all of the images, which is totally fine. But she felt so ashamed that she could not afford to buy all of the images that it turned into her guilting me because she felt this really deep feeling of guilt and shame. She actually told me that my pricing was equivalent to highway robbery, and the fact that I looked at what I created as art was ridiculous. And it hurt my feelings. Like, I'm not going to lie. It absolutely brought me to my knees. It hurt my feelings. And then once I let the pain pass, I think we feel emotions for about 90 seconds, as long as we don't empower them anymore. What I realized was that this was her guilt and shame, not mine. What I had to do was look at my pricing and say, do I feel like what I'm creating is worthy of this investment? Do I feel guilt and do I feel shame? So when you feel guilt and when you feel shame over receiving money, there's a couple of things that we do. We overgive, we discount, we undercharge, or we have problems selling and closing the deal. You can feel 100% belief and conviction in what you are able to do. And then when it comes time to talking about the money part, you choke. We can trace this guilt and shame back to self-worth. And these are all questions that I've asked myself when I've started my business. Am I good enough to receive money? Who do I think I am? Will people value my product enough to pay me? Am I foolish for thinking I can run a business? Am I going to fail and embarrass myself? It's one of the most, I guess, humbling positions to be in when you recognize that you feel guilty or you feel ashamed and you feel this way because you don't feel like you're good enough. What's crazy is when you start to receive money or you ask for money, a lot of times people that are part of your tribe will ask you these questions. Who do you think you are? Do you think people are really going to pay you this? Like, are you really going to think, like, are you really going to try to run a business? Like, you're just a mom. You're just a whatever you are. You know, you're just a teacher. You're just a woman. You're just one person. Who do you think you are? So when people say things like that to you, remember that they are mirroring back to you what you already feel about yourself. So before you blame them for shaming you, look inward. Who do I think I am? Do I believe I'm good enough to receive this money? Do people value my product enough to pay me? Is it worth the price that I'm asking? So here's the bottom line about receiving money. You cannot run a business if people don't pay you. And when you serve clients, they should pay you. Michael Kors does not feel shame for selling you a purse. You don't go to Michael Kors and walk in there and expect them to give you a purse for free. And now Tanger runs some killer discounts and they do a 70% off sale every, I guess, Black Friday. But you don't go in there on any normal day and say, well, what can you give me for a discount? So you have to ask yourself, do I value myself and do I value my product? If you do, you say, here's what I can do for you. This is what I can create for you and here is what it'll cost. But man, that experience is going to be worth the investment. If you don't, you say, hey, I'm afraid my product isn't good enough. Come by, try it for free. And please tell me it's valuable. People love free and people love cheap. And they don't care if the product is good or if it's not. And if we're seeking validation, you're going to become validated because people love free and cheap. They love it. And if you want to see if you really believe in your product, then charge something for it. And I think every photographer, and you guys, I'm sure, see photographers in your local mom groups or on Facebook. And I started like a lot of photographers do. I had a Christmas tree, a blanket, a camera, and man, I love taking pictures. And I could put that ad out there on Facebook, and for $75, I could get an hour. I could give people 200 images, and it was awesome. And people loved me. Everybody loved me. I got raving reviews, and I look back on that work, and I'm like, man, that's fine. Beautiful memories with lovely people, but the work was not a great quality. It wasn't all that people said it was. It did validate me. I got a whole lot of yes at Cheap and Free, a whole lot of yes. But once you start charging, and once you start charging sustainable prices, you're gonna get a whole lot more no. And you've got to be prepared for that, and you've got to be okay with that. So the cool thing about Beachbody is that they've already determined what their products are worth. And you decided that you were worth it, and that the product is worth investing in because you've all done it. And then you believed in it so much that you're like, God, I got to share this with people. And that's been the most amazing thing about watching Mary Alice's journey is how she went from somebody who was sick and didn't feel good about herself and kind of negative, and her and I used to have that in common, and watching her just blossom into this woman that is happy with who she is. It's changed her marriage. It's changed her relationship with her kids. It's changed her relationship with her job. And most importantly, the relationship with herself. And she believes in that so much that she wants to share it with other people. And here's the thing, y'all. You should not feel guilt or shame for the price that it costs. Frankly, it doesn't cost that much. The only reason you should feel guilt and shame is if you don't value it, you don't value you, or you're only on this journey because of what it can do for you. And I did a little research into Beachbody, and the whole mission is about creating a network to support and encourage others. It's not about you. Again, it's not about you. It's about building that community to help other people overcome their own doubts and excuses, right? So here's something else that I've learned recently is that you're going to come back and back and back and back and back to the self-value work. Like just when you think you got it licked, something's going to come along and it is going to take you out. It's going to test you. And these challenges are what's going to lead you to growth and empowerment. And I'll just tell you a little bit about my journey. When I was working from home, I was doing photography on the side, and I didn't need that income at all. I had my teacher salary. My wife makes a great salary. Photography was just something fun I did on the side. And I made money really easily because I wasn't worried about money. I accidentally made $60,000 last year on accident. And it was kind of mind-blowing actually at the end of the year because my accountant, this is not accounting advice, please talk to your own accountant, but my accountant told me, Whitney, invest it, get the equipment that you need, get the things that you need. I don't think he thought I was going to make $60,000, and I don't think that I did either, but I just wasn't worried about it. And people would spend $4,000, they would hug me, and we would become friends. It was the craziest thing that's actually ever happened to me, that I could give service with so much love that people felt all that love and empowerment, and they felt that it was worth thousands of dollars. It was mind-blowing. And then we opened a studio, and I quit teaching, and my financial circumstances changed, and all of a sudden, I'm not getting a steady paycheck, and photography is my full paycheck. And I start to look at the money differently. And I start to look at the money, am I going to make enough? Is it going to be enough? And I start looking at scarcity, and guess what I get right back? I get no clients. I get clients that are sensitive to spending money. And I got to look at myself and say, like, what am I doing and putting out there that's pulling this to me? And so the lesson gets a little bit easier to learn, but it's not like you just become confident one day and you're just confident forever and nothing ever happens to you. Earlier this year, we suffered a failed adoption. We were in the hospital for 3 days with the birth mom. They were supposed to sign 2 hours before they sent me a message and said they changed their mind. Like, text message changed our lives. What I will tell you is that you can be rocking and rolling in your business and feeling great and confident, and a personal challenge will come and it'll take you out. It'll bring you down. And it's so interesting how that challenge or trauma or event in your life can absolutely bleed into your business and what you've been building. And every time you think, I've got it down, I'm doing great, you know, it's not that every time that you're doing great, something's going to happen, but there's always that potential that something can happen and just test you. There's a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, and Brene Brown puts it in her book, Daring Greatly. And this is something I want to leave you with before I kind of wrap up. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Guys, it's scary as hell starting a business. It is scary as hell creating a brand, but you've got to get in that arena. The road to empowerment you learn by doing. If you're going to wait until you're perfectly confident, you're never going to put yourself out there. And I think that's one of the great things about Beachbody is that it shows real people doing the work, right? So it's not just when I'm skinny enough, when I'm fit enough, when I'm okay enough, when I'm enough, then I can be a coach. No, it's asking people to come as they are and create this network of people. It's okay to be afraid. You've got to do it anyway. Turn your fear into service. Turn your worry of I'm not good enough into yes, I'm good enough, and here's what I can do for you. Don't forget to come back to yourself. You kind of got to get a pulse check on your feelings, right? I think feelings, sometimes we don't want to feel them, but what you're attracting is a reflection of what you're projecting. You've got to learn the lessons, and you've got to stay focused on service. Something I've learned is that if it hurts you, it's worth exploring. If somebody hurts my feelings, then there's some truth in what they said. Hear that. If somebody hurts your feelings, then it's worth exploring. If you tell me, Whitney, you're a terrible person, it's not going to hurt my feelings unless I feel like I'm a terrible person. Something else too, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. I don't know about you guys, but I am one of the world's most impatient people. I go after things, and that's what I meant when I said I'm relentless. When I'm in it, and I'm ready to succeed. And I know with social media, it can be a little disheartening sometimes because you look at all of these people and you're like, golly, they are crushing it. They have all these people following them. They have all of this business, and what I can't do that. I can't be as, whatever it may be. I can't be that person. Like, I'm barely having a couple people follow me. I barely have 2 clients. I'm barely making the rent. But that person has failed more times than you have probably tried. And that's okay. So you got to be careful with social media. And you got to be careful with that comparison game. Because we all start somewhere. And I bet you that person started exactly where you are right now. Empower people, empower others. And your tribe might actually change a little bit. What was so shocking, and Mary Alice and I have this in common, is that once we started to become happy and once we started to feel in our full power, some of the people that we thought would be there cheering us on kind of fell to the sideline. And y'all, that is a painful experience, and that's a painful part of empowering yourself. I know that it's kind of one of those things when you call somebody, you call your best friend, and you talk about how your job sucks and your spouse sucks and your kids are driving you crazy, and you talk about all the negative things and you have all this stuff to talk about. And then you go through this change and you're talking about how you've got this job that you love and you're fulfilled and, you've been working on your relationship. Like, the person that's in a bad headspace, they don't want to hear that anymore. And so your tribe may change, and that's okay. Because you are going to step into your full power and you're going to live the life that you were meant to live the moment you decide not to let fear control you. So I always used to tell kids in my when I was teaching not to say the end, but that is, in fact, the end. And so I don't really quite know what happens next. But anyway, thank you guys for having me and listen to my talk.
Whitney, that was amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Are you I love that you love Brene Brown.
I do. Yes.
She's awesome. Do you do a lot of personal development?
Yes. So something that's really pretty interesting is that my wife and I are always reading books. So I'm going to drop some, in your group.
Yeah, please do.
And it's something too, once you start doing that soul work, it's going to impact every single facet of your life. And what we find so ironic is that the same lessons that I can apply to my entrepreneurship, she can apply to her team.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's so
yes. You literally are preaching everything I preach. I'm not even kidding you. Everything you have said, I'm like, yes. I love so much how you said, like, when you feel like you need money, like the desperation of money, it transfers to people. And it is like, it makes people kind of push you away a little bit. When you almost play like hard to get, like you don't need the sale, that's when people feel like, oh, this might be something to look into. You said something along the lines of that, and I was like, yes, I agree completely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just when, and you can think about any time somebody maybe wanted to date you, and they were
Hmm.
desperate to date you, and it
You
made
don't
them
want him, or
no.
made you want him more. Yeah, yeah. Or wait, someone desperate to date you makes you not want them, right?
Yeah, they're too needy.
That's right.
Yeah, neediness is so it's unattractive. So it's not really about playing a mind game necessarily. It's just about
Mm-mm.
focusing on your service, and
Mm-hmm.
people will you'll have that lovely, warm energy that people just want to be a part of.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Everyone, I don't know if you can see the chat, but everybody's saying that it was so good. And I took so many pictures of your slides. I was like, oh, I want to remember this. I want to remember this. I would love to have you back like in a couple of months. I'll give you a little break. But this was amazing. You should do this for more people. Seriously.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I guess I'll just say that I'm in the arena. I'm in the arena with all of you guys. And when Mary Alice asked me to do this, I really had to kind of get out of my own way with that as well. Because I think we feel like I can't talk to people because I haven't quite like quote unquote arrived. If I haven't
Oh.
arrived, how am I going to share this message? Am I worthy to share this message? So
Mm.
I'm excited to come back, and I think that maybe my story will even be a little bit different in a couple of
Gosh, and you're so well spoken too. That's the teaching in you, I'm sure it's kind of coming out. But you are very well spoken.
well, thank you.
This was amazing. Like seriously, I appreciate it so much. And I'm so sorry to hear about your failed adoption. I'll be praying for you. I can't imagine. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I think the universe it knew what we needed, and I
Mm.
knew that we weren't there yet. And so,
Sure.
yeah, our failed adoption was their successful
Mm.
love story. So,
Wow,
and
you have a really good heart.
no, it took a lot of time to get to
Sure.
that, but you just gotta rewrite the story. So.
Yeah. Woof, girl. You had some really good stuff to say. Wow. Thank you so, so much. Do y'all have anything to say or any questions at all? Any thoughts?
Love you, Whitney.
Oh, love you too. Thanks for having me.
Wow. I'm like blown away. I'm gonna have to come back to this recording and watch it again. Oh, I recorded you, by the way.
Oh no, that's fine. Well, not me, just my blank gray screen. Sorry.
Right, 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 right. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. I'm gonna go follow you on Instagram so I can just keep up with you, and keep in touch. And that was just amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It is so meaningful.
You're welcome, and good luck everyone with your endeavors.
Thanks, Whitney. Talk to you soon.
Alrighty.
Bye.